Two of my wife's brute lovers dragged me into the backseat of a black SUV. One was bald and tattooed from neck to knuckles. The other had a face that looked like it was carved from a concrete block. I didn't even get to tie my shoes. They snatched me straight off the front porch while I was carrying groceries, tossed my phone in a ditch, and drove like demons until the road turned to dirt. We stopped in the middle of a wind-slapped field. No houses, no lights, just me, two walking slabs of muscle, and her, Claire. She stood in stilettos like we were at some fashion shoot. Leather skirt, lips blood red, holding a thick envelope in one hand and a smug grin in the other. "Hey, babe," she cooed, like this was just some quirky Wednesday. "Glad you could join us. This won't take long." I was too stunned to speak. I looked at her, then the envelope. "What is this?" She stepped closer, heels crunching gravel. "It's a contract," she said. "No divorce. No legal drama. Just you accepting that I have lovers now. Multiple. Whenever I want. Wherever I want. And you stay my husband. Quiet. Loyal. Like a pet." The bald one chuckled. The other pulled a pin from his coat pocket. Claire waved the envelope. "Sign it, and we all go home with our bones intact." I didn't speak. My jaw clenched so tight it felt like it might snap. Claire tilted her head. "Come on, Ethan. Don't make this messy. You knew, didn't you? You're not that stupid. I mean, come on. You actually believed all those yoga retreats and late-night deadlines? God, you're adorable." She was mocking me, enjoying every second. And the worst part? She was right. Somewhere deep inside, I had known. I'd seen the text she'd accidentally left open. The long showers with her phone playing music at full volume, a decoy. I saw how she smiled when she thought I wasn't looking. Not at me. At the idea of him. Or them. Still, I hadn't imagined this. I thought cheating was whispers, motel keys, lipstick on collars. But Claire was built different. She wanted contracts. She wanted it all legalized, her betrayal, notarized. I stood up. The bald one twitched, ready to pounce, but Claire raised her hand. "No need, babe," she purred. "Ethan's not a fighter." I looked at her. Really looked. This woman, who once begged me to hold her hand when she had nightmares. Who cried in my arms after her father's funeral. Who told me I was her home. And now she was auctioning off our marriage like some Craigslist couch. That's when something inside me snapped, quietly, like the last tooth of a worn-out gear giving way. I didn't shout. I didn't lunge. I simply smiled. "You're right," I said softly. "Let's not make it messy." I reached for the pin. Claire looked triumphant. I took the envelope. She looked victorious. I signed. And then, I laughed. I laughed so hard it startled all three of them. Claire narrowed her eyes. "What's so funny?" I looked up at her. Calm. Cold. My smile felt like ice-breaking skin. "This is the part where I become very messy." She blinked. "What?" I dropped the pen. "You wanted a performance, Claire? You're about to get a damn masterpiece." And that was the beginning of my story. You see, people like Claire think betrayal is the climax. They don't realize it's just the opening act. They think cornering a man, humiliating him, makes them powerful. But there's something they forget. When a man's been dragged to the ground, when he's got nothing left to lose, when the last good piece of his heart is dead and buried, that's when he gets dangerous. So no, I didn't scream. I planned. I went home that night with a bruised ego and a burning mind. I replayed everything, the glances, the lies, the subtle shifts in her voice. I saw it all clearly now. Not just Claire's betrayal, but the pattern, the routine, the whole damn performance. I didn't sleep. And when dawn broke, I was already dressed. My revenge wouldn't be loud. It would be brilliant. The next morning, Claire left early. She didn't say goodbye. Just heels clicking down the stairs, the front door shutting like punctuation on a lie. I stood in the hallway, staring at the silence she left behind. It was the same house we built together, but now it felt like a hollow stage where I'd been the only one reading the script. She left her second phone on the kitchen counter. That was her mistake. She'd called it her work phone, though she barely worked. Said it was for client calls, another lie I swallowed like a loyal fool. But now, it buzzed quietly next to the fruit bowl, like it wanted to confess. I didn't hesitate. I picked it up and entered the one passcode I knew she'd never change: her dead dog's birthday. Pathetic how predictable betrayal can be. The screen lit up. And just like that, Pandora's box opened. Dozens of messages. Men saved under fake names. Janet Jim, Dental Office, Steve HR. A whole archive of filth dressed as logistics. One guy even texted, "Your husband's face when we dragged him was priceless. You really want him to stay?" Her reply? "He's like wallpaper. Easy to ignore. Let him rot." My fingers shook. There were photos, videos. I didn't open those. I didn't need to. The captions were enough. One said, "He cried last night. Told me he still believes in us." Rolling on the floor laughing. Another said, "I'll have him sign anything. He's weak." I didn't feel weak anymore. There was a time when Claire could make me feel like I wasn't enough. She had a way of shrinking my confidence with a sigh or a glance. But now, seeing her unfiltered, her real voice, her disgusting pride in humiliating me, something inside me realigned. This wasn't just cheating. It was erasure. She didn't want a lover. She wanted to annihilate me. I copied everything, uploaded it to the cloud, backed it up 3 ways. I wasn't just saving evidence. I was building a war chest. By the time she came back that night, I had memorized every timeline, every alias, every hotel room. She walked in humming some song like she hadn't detonated our entire marriage 24 hours ago. "You seem tense," she said, sliding out of her heels. "Did you at least think about the offer?" I smiled. "Yeah," I said. "I've been thinking a lot." She smirked. "Good. We can be modern. Evolved. Like adults." I didn't answer. Just watched her toss her purse onto the couch and head for the shower. She left her purse wide open. I saw the burner phone she didn't know I'd found. Another mistake. She thought I'd bend. She had no idea I'd already started to break her. Because this time, I wasn't going to scream or cry or beg. That's what she expected. That's what all of them expected. No. I was going to erase her, the way she tried to erase me. The plan was forming. Quiet. Precise. She didn't know it yet, but every fake laugh she gave me from that point on, every fake kiss on the cheek, I'd be counting them. Like funeral bells. This wasn't a marriage anymore. This was a hunt. 3 days passed. I played my role perfectly, the oblivious husband, docile and dull. Claire thrived in that illusion. She'd pat me on the shoulder, call me honey, and vanish for hours without a trace. But I watched her. Closely. Every glance. Every sudden text she tried to hide. I memorized the patterns. She had 2 main lovers, Mason and Troy. Both were gym rats with bank accounts fueled by shady money and steroid rage. The night everything snapped was a Friday. Claire insisted we have dinner together. "For old time's sake," she said, with a wink that made my skin crawl. She wore red. She always wore red when she wanted to play her sick little power games. And I played along. Candlelight, wine, the whole setup. I grilled steaks. Set the table. Pretended I didn't know she had sent Troy a text an hour earlier saying, "Wish me luck. If he signs tonight, we celebrate at your place, round 2. I was the luck. The joke. The warm-up act before she disappeared again into someone else's bed. She toasted to growth, whatever the hell that meant, and she kept looking at her phone like she expected applause. Then she pulled out the envelope again. The contract. That same twisted agreement that said I'd remain her husband while she collected men like trophies. "Let's just end the drama," she said sweetly. "It's not about love anymore, Ethan. It's about freedom. Mine. You'll get used to it." I stared at her across the flickering candlelight, heart pounding. "And what do I get, Claire?" She sipped her wine. "You get to stay. I mean, you're the boring stability. That's worth something, right?" Something inside me tore. Not loudly. Not even painfully. Just a clean break, like rope snapping in water. I stood up slowly, walked around the table, and kissed the top of her head. She giggled like I'd finally accepted my role as her doormat. Then I leaned down and whispered, "Let's take a selfie. For memory." She blinked. "What?" I grabbed her phone off the table before she could stop me. "One selfie. Humor me." Her face stiffened. "Ethan, put it down." I smiled, flipped the camera, and accidentally hit the home button. The screen lit up. Open. No password. Just one open chat. With Troy. He had sent a photo. Claire. In lingerie. Taken today. The timestamp burned into my eyes. 2:43 p.m. And then, below it, that idiot husband still breathing? Claire lunged across the table, but I stepped back fast. My smile vanished. "You're done?" I said flatly. Her eyes went wide. "It's not what it looks like." I held the phone up. "No? Is there another Claire in this picture? Maybe a twin you forgot to mention." She grabbed the wine bottle and poured another glass. "Look, calm down. I was going to explain everything. Eventually. But you're making this so dramatic." "You texted a man who assaulted me," I snapped. and asked him if I was still breathing. She shrugged, like I'd caught her stealing cookies. Ethan, she said, I'm tired of pretending. You're weak, and I need excitement. These men give me that. You give me groceries. I laughed once. A sharp, bitter bark. You know what I see now? What? You never loved me. You love controlling me. She paused. Her mask cracked, but only for a second. Fine, she said. Be a man for once. Leave, or stay and rot. I'll keep doing what I want either way. I nodded. You'll regret this. Claire raised her glass. Cheers to regret, then. She drank, but she didn't know that was her last peaceful sip in this house. Claire thought she was untouchable. That's the problem with people like her. They think everyone around them is furniture. Movable, replaceable, disposable. After that dinner, I didn't sleep. I couldn't. I sat in the garage with the door half open, the cold air biting at my skin, scrolling through her messages, reading her filth, her plans, her arrogance. She wasn't hiding anymore. She enjoyed humiliating me. But then I found something interesting. A thread from her sister, Olivia. Not one of the fake friends Claire bragged about to look important, her actual sister. The kind that used to call me the good one when no one else was listening. The message was buried between the sexts and scheduling filth. Olivia, Claire, you're pushing it. Mom and Dad don't know what you're doing with the house money, right? What if Ethan finds out? House money? I froze. We'd taken out a loan last year to renovate the kitchen. Claire insisted on handling the paperwork, said she wanted to learn responsibility. I let her. Another mistake. I dug into the documents that night, took the old files from our closet safe, flipped through folders I hadn't touched since we got married. And there it was, clear as daylight. She'd refinanced the loan using forged signatures. My signature. Then funneled most of the money into a separate account. The renovations? Cost half of what she claimed. The rest? Gone. No wonder she didn't want a divorce. She wasn't protecting freedom. She was protecting fraud. By morning, I had screenshots, printed statements, the beginnings of a quiet storm. And then I made the call. Olivia picked up, voice cautious. Ethan? Hey, I need you to answer one question honestly. She paused. If it's about Claire, did she steal money from our joint loan? A long silence. Then a sigh. Yes. Why didn't you tell me? She said you knew. Said it was your idea to help her get the salon investment ready. Ethan, she lies to everyone. Not just you. I sank into the couch, heart heavy. How long? She's been funneling for months. Some of it to a guy in Florida. Troy, I think. Of course it was Troy. Thanks, I said. I'm handling it now. Be careful, Olivia said quietly. Claire's worse than you think. She always has been. I hung up and stared at the living room Claire decorated with money she stole, love she faked, and lies she wove like silk. I wasn't going to scream. I wasn't going to warn her. I was going to expose her. To her family. To her lovers. To her polished little world. I waited until Sunday. Claire's precious weekly dinner with her parents. That perfect suburban ritual she used to convince everyone she was the good daughter. The successful one. The loyal wife. I showed up uninvited. They were already seated. Claire froze when I walked in. Her father looked confused. Her mother smiled awkwardly. Didn't know you'd be joining us, Claire said, her tone too sweet, too sharp. I laid the folder on the table. Thought I'd bring dessert. She looked down, saw the printed statements, the screenshots, the bank transfers, the forged signature. Her mother blinked. Claire, what is this? Her father's face drained of color. Claire stood up. Ethan, don't do this here. Why not? You love making a scene. She tried to grab the folder, but her dad snatched it first. What the hell is this, Claire? Lies, she said quickly. He's twisting it. He's angry. No, I interrupted. This is the truth. The same truth she's been hiding from you while parading around like a trophy daughter. Her father's hand shook. You forged his name? Claire opened her mouth, closed it, and for the first time, she didn't have a lie ready. The ride home from Claire's parents' house was silent. She didn't say a word, and neither did I. The only sound was the hum of the tires on asphalt and the occasional sharp inhale from her, like she was still trying to come up with a way to spin it all, to twist it into something that made her the victim again. She sat with her arms folded, jaw tight, eyes fixed out the window like a child caught stealing. When we pulled into the driveway, she didn't even wait for me to turn off the engine. She slammed the door, stomped up the front steps, and disappeared inside. I took my time. Let her stew. She'd finally been cornered, and I could feel the panic radiating from her. But I knew she wasn't done. Not by a long shot. Women like Claire don't just collapse, they scheme. Sure enough, when I walked through the door, she was on the phone in the kitchen, whispering in that desperate serpent tone of hers. He just showed up with everything. No, I don't know how he got it. But listen, you need to lay low for a while. He might come after you next. She saw me standing there and froze. I didn't blink. I didn't smile. Just raised my eyebrow like, go ahead. Lie again. She hung up fast. What? She snapped. That Troy on the line? Or Mason? Hard to keep track now, huh? She sneered. I'm warning you, Ethan. You don't know who you're messing with. I took a slow step forward. No, Claire. You don't. Because I finally understand who you are. She laughed, bitter and sharp. You think I'm scared of you? You still don't get it. You're not dangerous, Ethan. You're background noise. I walked past her, straight to the living room, where I'd left a second folder. This one had photos, screenshots, locations, a full breakdown of her affair with Troy, the gym trainer turned wannabe gangster who'd bragged in text about breaking the husband in half if he ever stepped out of line. I placed the folder on the coffee table and sat down. You might want to take a look at this, I said calmly. She didn't move. Claire, I said, I know Troy has a record. I also know he's still on parole. And I've got a pretty strong case now, forged documents, financial fraud, and a man with a violent past tied to it all. You wouldn't, she whispered. I would. And I already have. The police will visit him first. They like starting with the muscle. Her face paled. She tried to speak, but nothing came out. Her hands trembled, not from guilt, but fear. Fear of losing control. Fear of losing her throne. I leaned forward. You wanted to keep me trapped in this marriage while you ran wild with every guy who could bench 2 plates. You threatened me, humiliated me, used me like a bank account with a heartbeat. But now, I smiled coldly. Now, I'm the one with options. And right on cue, there was a knock at the door. Claire flinched. I opened it to find a police officer standing there, firm and focused. Mr. Ethan Walker? He asked. Yes. We'd like to speak with you about a report involving fraudulent loan documents and a known felon. May we come in? I turned to Claire. She was frozen, hands clenched, eyes wide. I held the door open and nodded. Of course, officer. Please. Come in. She backed into the corner of the room like the walls were closing in. And maybe they were. Because one of her lovers was already on the run. And the next one? He wouldn't be so lucky. Claire always thought she was the smartest person in the room. Manipulative, charming when she needed to be, and absolutely fearless when she was cornered, like a fox that thinks it can still outwit the hounds even with its leg caught in a trap. But the thing about smart people? They get lazy. They overlook details, especially the ones that can blow their entire game apart. The officers didn't arrest her that night. They were only there for a statement. But watching her squirm in her chair while they asked simple questions about the forged signature, the suspicious account withdrawals, her relationship with a convicted felon, was better than any revenge I'd imagined. I stayed calm, polite, cooperative. The perfect betrayed husband. Claire tried to control the narrative, of course. Claimed it was all a misunderstanding. Said she was the real victim, that I'd emotionally manipulated her for years. But she didn't know I'd already filed for divorce the day before, and that I'd filed it with a prenup she had completely forgotten about. See, early in our marriage, Claire had insisted on signing a prenup. Said it was romantic. Said it proved we were getting married for love, not money. I agreed, back then. I trusted her. But the clause I'd added in small print, at the advice of an old lawyer friend? Infidelity voids all asset claims. And it didn't just void her claims, it transferred everything back to me. The house, the savings, the business she tried to leech from. I sat her down after the cops left. Claire, I said softly, almost kindly, remember that prenup you signed? Back when you still pretended to love me. She crossed her arms. What about it? I slid the original across the table. You should have read it more carefully. She flipped through the pages, eyes scanning fast. Then slower. Slower still. And then she saw it. The clause. Ironclad. No, she whispered. You can't use this. You tricked me. No, I said. You tricked yourself. You wrote the ending to this story the moment you dragged me into that field and told me to sign or be broken. Her hands shook. She stood up, breathing heavy. You can't take everything. That house is mine. I decorated it. I picked the countertops. You paid for it with stolen money, I interrupted. And it's not your name on the deed anymore. It never was. She went silent. Then she laughed. Not that playful, flirty laugh she used to use when we were happy. This was bitter, ugly, shaky. You think you've won? She spat. You think this is over because you pulled some sneaky claws out of your ass? I didn't blink. It's over because you underestimated me. She pointed a shaking finger at me. You're pathetic. You'll always be pathetic, no matter how much paper you wave in my face. Maybe, I said, but I sleep alone now. And I sleep peacefully. She stormed upstairs, slamming the door so hard a picture fell off the wall. I didn't even flinch. Let her scream. Let her throw her tantrums. It was too late. Because this wasn't just the end of a marriage. It was the collapse of a con. She built a life of lies, betrayal, and masked cruelty, but she forgot to check the foundations. And now? Everything she thought she owned was slipping right through her perfectly manicured fingers. Claire went quiet for a few days after I showed her the prenup. No more insults. No late-night phone calls. No smug stares. She barely left the bedroom except to heat up coffee and vanish into her own bitter silence. But I knew better than to believe she'd surrendered. Claire didn't just give up, she regrouped. And right when I started thinking the storm might have passed, it came crashing back through the front door. Literally. I was in the garage sorting through old boxes when I heard the slam, the kind of slam that told you someone didn't come to talk. I walked inside and saw him. Troy. All muscle, tattoos, and fury. His shirt soaked with sweat, his jaw clenched so tight you could see the veins in his neck. Claire stood behind him like some twisted queen watching her knight charge into battle. You think you're clever, huh? Troy growled, stepping closer to me. You called the cops on me. Made me look over my shoulder every damn second. I didn't flinch. I've been scared once, not anymore. You assaulted me, I said flatly. And your parole officer knows. You should be in a cell, not my house. He smirked, but his eyes darted, wild, cornered. You're not pressing charges. Claire said you wouldn't. I looked past him, straight at her. Claire lies. She always lies. That hit. Claire's smirk wavered. She opened her mouth to speak, but Troy was already stepping forward again, jabbing a thick finger into my chest. You think paperwork makes you a man? He hissed. You think your little folders scare me? I looked down at the finger pressed into my chest, then back at his eyes. No, I said. But you should know I installed cameras last week. One in this room. One outside. And guess what? They're recording. Troy froze. I tapped my phone in my pocket. One button and your parole officer gets a video of you violating the restraining order I filed yesterday. Signed, stamped, delivered. Claire's eyes went wide. You're bluffing. Am I? I asked. Feel free to test me. For a moment, the whole room crackled with tension. Troy's fist clenched, knuckles pale. Claire looked like she was calculating which one of us could still save her. Then, slowly, Troy stepped back. You're dead inside, man, he spat. You think this makes you strong? Hiding behind the law. No, I said. What makes me strong is that I didn't stoop to your level. You're a threat to society. I'm just a reminder that eventually, someone will stop you. He turned, glared at Claire, and growled, this wasn't worth it. Claire reached out to touch his arm. Troy, don't. He shoved her hand off and stormed out. The door slammed again. This time, it felt final. Claire didn't look at me, just stood in the middle of the room, arms at her sides, completely stripped of her power. I poured myself a glass of water. You picked a man who'd break the law for you, I said, but not one who'd stay when the game stopped being fun. Her voice cracked. He said he loved me. No, I said. He loved breaking things. You just handed him the bat. She opened her mouth, maybe to lash out, maybe to beg. I didn't care. I walked past her without another word. For the first time since this nightmare started, I felt peace. Not the quiet kind. The righteous kind. The kind that comes when the wreckage starts clearing and you realize you're still standing. The morning after Troy's meltdown, Claire sat at the kitchen table, staring into a black cup of coffee she hadn't touched. No makeup. No jewelry. Just a woman in a hoodie too big for her, looking like she hadn't slept in days. It was the first time I'd seen her without her mask. I almost felt sorry for her. Almost. She didn't look at me when I walked in. Just said, so, what now? I poured my own coffee and leaned against the counter. Now? The divorce finalizes next week. The house is mine. The business accounts are locked. You'll be served the formal exit notice by Friday. She flinched, as if each word was a slap. But she didn't argue. Not anymore. I continued, you'll need to pack your things by then. I've already arranged for your mail to be redirected. Still, she said nothing. The silence between us was heavier than it had ever been, not because we were holding back, but because there was nothing left to say. All the lies, all the mind games, all the late-night whispers she thought I never heard, they had collapsed into this. Two strangers sipping coffee in a house built on betrayal. I didn't want it to be like this, she finally muttered. I laughed. Not loud. Just a short, bitter sound. You wanted a husband who'd stay loyal while you played queen. You had your throne. You just didn't think it could turn to ash. She looked up at me then, eyes red. Not from tears, from exhaustion. Defeat. Or maybe from watching every fake little empire she'd built come crumbling down in real time. You think you're better than me now? She said. I stared at her. No. I know I am. Because when I was hurt, I didn't hurt others. When I was betrayed, I didn't betray anyone back. And when you had the chance to fix things, you picked ego over honesty every single time. Her lips parted like she was about to spit something vile, but nothing came. The venom was gone. Whatever power she thought she held had finally rotted through. I stood and walked toward the hallway. Halfway there, I stopped and turned. You want advice? She didn't respond, but her eyes stayed locked on mine. Next time someone loves you enough to sacrifice for you, don't use that love to build a lie. Because eventually, even the quietest man learns how to burn bridges with a smile. That was the last thing I ever said to her. Claire left 2 days later. No goodbye. No note. Just an empty closet and a bottle of her perfume left behind like a ghost that didn't know it was dead yet. I walked through each room, one by one, and opened the windows. Let the air change. Let the past blow out into the wind like ash from a fire long burned out. And for the first time in years, I wasn't holding my breath. People ask what I learned from it all. Simple. Never mistake silence for weakness. Never confuse love with permission. And most of all, if someone shows you who they are, don't wait for them to change. Believe them. And leave. Because men like me, we don't stay broken. We rebuild. Stronger. Smarter. And far more dangerous than the ones who smiled while they destroyed us.